It feels so good to be out here gardening and doing something actually meaningful. And it is just so good for your mental health, and it makes me so happy. That's the first line, which has got the soil and the powder. It says I now have to top it up. Oh, look at these. I've set myself another goal. So why not join me while I prepare my kitchen garden ready for spring? So I think there's something truly magical about gardening. It's that feeling of getting your hands dirty and then watching all your hard work grow and flourish, and then the bonus is that you get to pick your own fruit and vegetables fresher than anything you'll ever buy in a supermarket, and it's all from your own veggie patch. So let's bid farewell to winter and start to welcome the spring. It's literally only weeks away and I'm really excited. I'm going to be getting my garden ready and I hope that I can inspire you to do the same. So let's get started. So maintaining soil health is one of the biggest challenges that we face. Now, three things come to mind. One is that your soil may lack nutrients, two, you may have poor drainage, and three, it may be filled with weeds. Now, these problems will all prevent our plants from growing well, so they're all going to need some form of attention right now. Limited space is another issue. Now, I've got a small garden and it's really hard to fit in all the vegetables and the herbs that I want to grow, and that's why spring garden planning is just so important to be successful in the growing season. Now, pests can appear unexpectedly as well and they can harm your crops, so things like aphids and slugs in particular are just a few examples, and these troublesome visitors can be really frustrating. Now, what I have done is in the autumn months I put in loads of netting, not to protect the crops now, but you don't know when that first day is when they all start to emerge, so they're a preventative method ready for spring, so that when the allium leaf miner, for instance, or as I've experienced in the past, flea beetle suddenly become active, my nets are already in place, ready. So again, it's another part of forward planning for spring. So it's not just about growing plants, I also need to repaint these fences and the shed this year. And look at my patio slabs, they desperately need jet washing. I need to remove all this algae, and on top of that my summer house also needs some minor repairs. Now, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to go about that, but I might have to get some advice. And then finally, I want to make a shelving unit from some wooden trays that I've got in the greenhouse. So there is a lot to do, and despite these challenges, I'm absolutely determined to create a productive kitchen garden that's going to give me fresh produce throughout the seasons. And I know many of you share similar struggles, so I want to share my journey with you, and by improving my kitchen garden, I hope to inspire and motivate you to do the same. So I'm just adding manure to this bed. Now, if you remember, this is where I had my cauliflowers. Now, I did harvest a few of them, but unfortunately the frost, the really cold icy temperatures ruined them. They were frozen out here and turned brown, and there was no recovering for them, so I had to dig them up. But I've given this bed a dressing of blood, fish and bone, and worked that into the soil. So that's worked into the existing soil, and then I'm topping it up with this manure. So it acts kind of like a mulch. So hopefully the ground underneath might warm up a little bit. But gradually any nutrients that are in this will leach into the soil below as it continues to decompose. And then when it's time to plant, this should be nice and healthy. So I'm just getting rid of some of these big lumps, and then I'm going to rake it all over. And then when I've done this bed, I've got one more to do. So better carry on. It's been a little bit compacted in those bags, so I've got some big lumps they're not difficult to break up. It's just nice and crumbly. Now, this has been stored in my greenhouse, so it's not soppy and it doesn't stink. I think that's why it's so nice and crumbly. It's got a lovely texture. I've got one broccoli left. I'll show you in a minute. But it has got a little head on it. There's one here. It's trying to survive, but I think I'm just going to lift it. This is the bed that had the broad beans in. Sadly, they didn't survive the severe cold temperatures, so I'm going to have to sow some more. So the soil had been amended, but I'm just going to give it another bag while I've got the opportunity. So this is another bag of the manure. Oh, it feels so good to be out here gardening and doing something actually meaningful, and it is just so good for your mental health, and it makes me so happy. Yeah, it's cold still. It's not as cold as it was a few days ago. I think one of the recorded temperatures in the greenhouse was -5. And succumbed, and the cauliflower for that matter. This is a bit more lumpy than the previous bag, but it's still crumbly. Right, let's rake that in. The compost does drop over time, but keep topping it up means that the growing depth for the roots is getting deeper. So that can only be a good thing. So if you do have raised beds, you will find you'll have to keep topping them up every year. Alright, so that's another job done. And I think, as you've probably well guessed, it's time for a coffee. So Paddy and I are out for a walk, but I've got a bag of seeds here. I sorted my seed box, and these are all excess seeds that I don't want. And I'm coming up by the allotments, and I'm going to leave them with the plant and seed exchange. It's bitterly cold, but it's a beautiful sunny day. So many neglected and empty plots. I'm sorely tempted, I can tell you, but I don't think I will. I like the freedom of it being on my doorstep. So hopefully they'll be of use to somebody. This has been neglected for years. I'm surprised nobody's nabbed all those raised beds. Now I want to touch on a subject that is soil based, and I don't want to get too technical, but it's the pH of the soil. Now I had an issue a couple of years ago which was really detrimental to my garden. So if I just briefly explain that soil pH can be measured on a scale of 1 to 14. It goes from acid to alkaline. So in the middle, 6 to 7 is classed as neutral and is generally the ideal growing conditions for most plants. 0 to 7 is the acidic side, and anything above 7 is heading towards alkaline. Now in general, if you had a pH of about 4, most crops and plants would really struggle. They just wouldn't flourish. And if you go into alkaline, the higher it gets, the less the plants are able to access any nutrients. Now the bed I'm sitting at now, I did a pH test of it 2 years ago because everything was dying throughout the garden. Nothing was surviving, or it was going very yellow and it was poorly. And I had a pH test done. It was done by the RHS. Now this cost me quite a bit of money, and but the pH for this bed at that time was 8.4, so it was incredibly alkaline. And once the soil is alkaline, it is really difficult to bring the pH down. If you've got an acidic soil, it's easy to increase it to make it more neutral and bring it up. So in other words, the pH number, it's higher to raise it than it is to lower it. So I had a real problem on my hands. Now, I don't want to do another lab test because they cost a lot of money. So I've got a little kit now. This was only $2.99. So you get what you paid for. It's just going to be an indication of whether this soil is neutral or if it's still very alkaline. So let's have a go and see what the result is. Right, this little file has got lines down the side and it's got a powder in there, and what it's telling me to do, it's saying that I need to get a sample of soil from 4 inches below. So we go down about 4 inches. So we go to about there. Add the soil to the powder line up to the first line. Right, so that's up to the first line. And then I'm going to have to go indoors because I need to then top up with water. So you'll have to come with me into the kitchen. This is a tube. Now I don't know if that's actually going to pick it up, but that's the first line, which has got the soil in the powder. It says I now have to top it up to the 4th line with water. Now I don't want to spill it everywhere, so what I've done is I've put some water in this container. It's warm water, and I'm just going to fill it up until I get to that level. Right, so it's given it a good shake. Now I've got to leave it to settle, so I'll come back when it's done exactly that and we'll see what it comes out as. A few minutes and the soil has definitely settled. That is my chart. Well, it's not the darkest of green, is it? So I'm assuming, what do you think? Oh, I think that's probably neutral. So it may be that I have nothing to worry about this year. So this is why I say you get what you pay for. It's very hard to tell on that. It's not really very accurate, is it? Hold it up towards the light. But I don't think it's the darkest green, so hopefully that is saying that we're in a neutral pH. That's what I'm hoping. So in revamping my kitchen garden, I've learned that it's all about taking one step at a time. So it's being patient, being willing to adapt to changing circumstances. Now, a prime example of that is losing my broad beans and also the cauliflowers to the bitterly cold weather that we've had. So you have to be adaptable and plan around that, but I'm not getting any younger, so I have to pace myself. But by following simple steps, as I've suggested, so that's preparing your soil, selecting the right plants, planning your layout, and planting with care, we can all create a vegetable patch or a kitchen garden that's going to provide us with fresh ingredients and a sense of accomplishment all spring long. So I'm just having a well-earned coffee break, and then I'll take you in the greenhouse. Now, I already have an idea of what seeds I'm going to be sowing throughout the coming weeks. and I'm going to be trying a few new things this year, but that's for another time. So most urgently, I guess, or the most pressing to sow at the moment are my broad beans, because all those that I sowed over winter I lost. So I've got another packet. This is the aquadolce, which obviously are very good for overwintering, and I've treated myself to a root trainer propagator. Now I've got this from the garden centre where I work, and what I really like about this is, would you believe it, the root trainers are dishwasher proof, so that's absolutely fantastic. So I know that they're going to be sterilised and squeaky clean when I finish with them. So beans need deep roots, so this is so much more practical than, say, if I get another tray, a tray like this. Let's look at the difference. So these will stay in the greenhouse. I'll put the lid on, but they don't need to be in the house because, as I say, they're an overwintering variety, so they are used to the cold to a degree, but they'll be safe out here. So that's my most pressing at the moment. Let me show you what else I've got. So my trusty Lolo Rosso lettuce I want to sow. I've got Tigerella tomatoes and Moneymaker. I've also got some saved Rebel Starfighter, which I will do, and I might buy some starter plants as well from the garden centre. I've got my cayenne pepper, which I like to grow. Now with the flowers, I've really late doing this. I should have done this before Christmas, but I've got some sweet peas to sow. I've got cosmos to sow. What else have I got here? Nasturtiums and calendula, so they're all pollinating or attracting pollinators in the garden, so they're all important. Probably do some more cauliflower and my peas, so that's what I'm going to do in the next couple of weeks. I've also got some shallots. These are the banana style shallots, so this is Longor, and I've got 2 containers just outside the greenhouse, so they'll probably go in that. What else? I'll show you my potatoes that are chitting. So just briefly, I've got Pent and Javelin, which are my first early, Charlotte second, and main crop Cara. They will sit there quite happily until the end of March, when I will start to plant them up in my 30 litre buckets. Now I've received this package and it has really made me chuckle. It's from Danny from the Grow Up channel. I'm really excited to open this package and reveal just what he has sent me. It's very exciting. That is a sight for sore eyes. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, Danny, I am thrilled. So I need to get them in the ground. So these fantastic bulbs, if you haven't guessed already, are actually elephant garlic. And Danny has told me to plant them 2 inches down from the top of the bulb. So this is my leek bed, and I can extend the netting to protect them from the allium leaf miner, but it's getting a little bit dark now, so I need to get them in quickly. And he says they've been out in all sorts of frosts, so he says they're going to cope. So I'll put them right down like that. So that's 1. They've got a fantastic root system. I need to go a bit deeper. But it's good they've been acclimatised because it is blooming cold, I can tell you. Oh, I'm chuffed. I don't know what else to say. Absolutely made up. So I really hope that sharing all my experiences and the progress I've made in getting the garden ready for spring will have shown you something perhaps new, or inspired you to do similar with your own vegetable gardens. So don't forget to leave me a comment. I'd love to hear about your experiences, and if you're new to my channel, then why not consider subscribing for more gardening tips and regular updates throughout the growing season. So have a great week everybody, and happy gardening. I will see you in the next one. I'm Annie, and this is my kitchen garden.